Hey, hey, hey.
These walls could talk.
Welcome to the Counterpoise podcast, where E decides it's a good idea to sing as soon as we hit that action button. But anyway, welcome to the Counterpoise podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Samantha Adams. I'm joined by my other two co-hosts. Y'all want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Malik Foster, another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And I'm Grammy nominated. You know what I'm saying? Singing.
Okay.
Avery Stevenson, and one of the third co-hosts for the Counterpoise podcast. And so today we are going to be talking about the Trump convictions that recently happened in his New York jury trial for falsifying business records. So if you guys haven't been aware, he was recently found guilty on all 34 charges, felony charges for falsifying business records, and in particular, some of those records all dealt with roughly purchasing or buying or squashing records or any type of stories that placed him in a negative light. So to give you guys a little bit of detail, specifically what he was charged with was he caused records to be falsified and conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means. Essentially, what some of the facts that came out in the case proved was that Mr. Trump had met with a couple of people, a guy named David Pecker, who was the National Enquirer publisher, former National Enquirer publisher, and his fix-it lawyer, Michael Cohen, to discuss ways to either purchase or to minimize all negative press that was associated with Donald Trump. Within that case, they ended up deciding to make a deal with a young lady by the name of Stormy Daniels, who was the facts state that Trump had his lawyer make an agreement with her to kind of take her story away or to not, publicly pursue her claim against him. In turn, she will receive $130,000 for her silence while he was running for president. What ended up coming out later on, was that Trump paid out Cohen $35 a month for a year in a series of checks, which was stated to be business records that Trump was claiming that Mr. Cohen was doing different business items for him. However, it was in fact, found out that there wasn't legal work that he was doing. In fact, what he was doing was helping him to conspire to change records and notes about excuse me, um, about anything that would necessarily cast him in a negative light. So that's a little bit of a background story, what was going on, and some of the charges and facts that was associated and proven by the court in order for them to get this conviction of Mr. Trump. So, anybody else wanted to kind of comment on that real quick or say
Yeah,
anything?
one thing also too, I wanted to make sure I added, Stormy Daniels is an alleged porn star. It's not to slight her, to, talk down on her. That's really just, what she was doing for a living at the time, and he allegedly had an affair with her. So because that would have casted him in a negative light, he didn't want that to come out. And Michael Cohen was instrumental in making sure she was getting paid off and things of that nature. And during the course of the trial, his testimony was probably the most between her testimony and Stormy Daniels' testimony and Michael Cohen's testimony. That testimony was probably the most pivotal in getting him convicted. 34 counts is a lot of counts, but it's not abnormal. The other thing is that the thing that surprised me, though, was that he was found guilty on all of them. Normally when you have people get found, you have that many charges, you typically see them get convicted on some, not convicted on others, and he was convicted on everything. So I found that to be very interesting. New York doesn't allow for cameras in the courtroom, so we didn't actually get to watch it. But we got to hear, obviously news reporters come out, talk about it, things like that. So some of the things that you like to look for at a trial, aside from just, what's being said, is the people's demeanor, right? The looks on their faces, facial expressions, how they're kind of acting and stuff like that. So gets missed because the cameras are not in the courtroom. But I get it, right? Because right after that, Donald Trump got out and had some stuff to say. I know I personally would prefer for my client to shut up. I don't want them to talk because they could say something that could make it worse. Donald Trump is scheduled to be sentenced on July 11th, I think it is. And so the last thing I would want my client to be doing is talking to the press to say anything that can have a negative impact on what sentence might come his way.
Yeah, that's true, but getting Donald Trump to be quiet hasn't worked for him. To advocate for him talking, that's always been his thing, right? Celebrity, talking, the media personality, all of that stuff. But I wanted to bring up an interesting point, and like let's take a little walk back in history. We all know about the Central Park Five. What they've been accused of, and things like that, and how this plays a role in what Donald Trump's going through is the fact that he is claiming he's innocent. He's feeling like, oh, now I'm a black person. Now I feel like how blacks are being targeted and all this racism, blah, 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 right? So he's trying to pull that kind of card on black people. But I want black Americans to be aware that, during the Central Park Five, when they were going through trial, he's taking out a whole full page ad against them, even though they had nothing to do with that white woman. They didn't do anything right, wrong, and they turned out to be innocent. But he flexed his power, wealth, and influence to, flex his muscles against them and show his
Call
big.
the whistles.
Right, exactly. Now he's essentially crying wolf because he feels like the justice system isn't on his side. But he wasn't on Central Park side. He didn't let due process go. He didn't look at the facts or the evidence. But now people could say, "Oh yeah, they're just trying to find anything on him." Yeah, that's true. They are. They're trying to get him. That much is obvious. Like I don't think it's like they're trying to. Oh, we're just trying to get to the facts and the legal stuff of things. Cohen, he's already kind of, you know, been found guilty of what he's been doing as well. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like everything's adding up on him right now that he still has three more criminal charges pending. And I just wanted to bring up that point because I think it's really interesting that he's crying that the system's against him when he was part of the system that oppressed Black Americans. So he can't try to use that card or those talking points in order to get people to vote for him. Like, see, I'm on your guys' side now. No, you're only on our guys' side because you need the votes. And that's what, you know, ultimately cost you the election. If Black people turn out to vote for Biden or even stay at home, it works in your favor or goes against you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what he's trying to pull here.
Yeah, so a couple things that we didn't mention was that just days before the 2016 election, Cohen paid 130,000 to Stormy Daniels, who claimed she had, remember, like I said, they had an affair back in 2006, and she agreed to keep her story under wraps in exchange for the money. And then after Trump became president, Cohen paid 35,000 a month for a year in a series of checks, most of which were signed by Trump, because Trump prides himself on always signing his checks. Um, he didn't want nobody else to do it. And so prosecutors said that the checks and associated business records were illegally portrayed payments to Cohen, so as legal work, so that Cohen could try to get reimbursement for those payoffs at Trump's request. So that's also how that happened. But like you said, Malik, Cohen kind of took responsibility, right? He lost his license to practice law. He went to jail, all that stuff. And so with now Donald Trump claiming that he can relate to black people more because he's been convicted, it's foolishness, especially to not just because of incidents like the Central Park Five, but also too when he ran his 2016 campaign, he ran it on being a president of law and order. You know what I mean? Support the police, fund the police, all this military style stuff. And he was cool with all of that until the tables turned, right? Until he was on the other side of that thing. And I mean, I get it. Remember, he also made the statement like, "Hey, I could shoot somebody in the middle of in the middle of Times Square, and nobody will do anything." So, like, you think that you're that untouchable, and so the fact that he was convicted is, I'm sure, a very scary thought for him because at that point, you don't feel so untouchable now, right? He did an
Well,
interview. He did a Fox News interview, and one of the things that they asked him was about whether or not he's prepared to go to jail because jail is a very real possibility for Donald Trump. It doesn't mean that he'll absolutely go, like he'll absolutely get sentenced to that, but it's as long as jail is available as a part of a sentence, you always have to think that it's a very real possibility that could happen. And so he said, if that's what happened, if he gets sentenced to that, that's what will happen. And I mean, that would be before the election. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. What were you going to say, E?
yeah. So in particular, when you mentioned how like um this invincibility feeling, right? I think that was really important because we've seen this happen again when the whole insurrection thing occurred, and then we're just like, oh, hey, if what I'm saying, there's been injustice, then we need to go out here and these fine folks and all of these type of languages that he's used for behaviors of vigilante in some senses that allowed for individuals to feel like, okay, there is this, we like to look at it as a privilege, as we say a lot of times, that you have being like a white male and having a certain level of resources that allow you to feel like, hey, you can move around as worth untouchable. And I think like we can see here clearly that the, the jurors in this case found that there was a lot of foul play, and I think that we saw that too when we saw originally him coming in and getting brought in on those charges initially, and his team kind of coming in slowly but surely, having to be indicted and then brought in and having to give their statements and things to the point that Malik made. We see Mr. Cohen, or to the point that you just made, Mr. Cohen lost a lot of things as far as his ability to practice law. His reputation definitely took a hit. I think we also saw the same thing for one of his accountants for one of his businesses as well. I think he was indicted as well. There's a lot of people on his team that took hits in regards to this case in particular, and I feel like that alone shows that what we do know is that, again, that people are willing to ride with you until that light hits sometimes, and then you see that now folks that were looking as your friends are now turning to become witnesses for the state, providing all details and things that they know that happen in your life for immunity, and doing what they can to try to bring down the big fish, if you will, of Mr. Trump. And so I think that's pretty much what we're seeing with Mr. Cohen in this situation right now. But it's interesting, man. It's definitely interesting to see how that plays out because a lot of times you think when it comes to those type of situations, hey, somebody would just go ahead and take that fall if you know that someone has the potential to become the president again. You know what I mean? You swallow everything that you can and take that, and knowing that oh, the president will look out for me again because of all of the good deeds that I've done for him, or on the back end, all of the dirt that I have on him. But as we see that was not the case, he turned witness and used some of the information that he knew to excuse me, to insinuate Mr. Trump into these charges as well. And so I think that was definitely
Mhm.
something interesting that we saw in this case. That's pretty much similar to a lot of cases when it comes to people kind of turning witness, if you will, instead of being co-defendant to now, a witness in this situation. So yeah, I think that was something to take note of. But I also feel like you said, to the issue of race and Mr. Trump doing a call of talking about how you know he now feels like a black individual is being identified. I definitely think that's scary terminology because it's just like the fact that you're trying to like use that as a way to link to the community or to maybe try to uh, um, use that as though that's like a bonding tip instead of realizing that how much of an issue it is for certain individuals who, as a friend of mine stated the other day, I've always seemed to fit the description, even when they don't literally fit the description. However, somehow, some way, if they're in that environment, they're going to be identified, ask questions and subjugated to harassment, if you will. Those individuals don't take that lightly. Whereas, like, you get to wear it as a badge of honor, almost like a hood pass, if you will, to say, "Look, I go through what you go through," and so that's something I think that people need to be mindful of, so that you don't get caught up in that rap of, "Oh no, he like us because look, they coming after him too." Totally different ball game. Totally different ball game.
Yeah, so Stephen Hackett says, but I have to say, Mr. Cohen was loyal. He lied under oath, and Mr. Trump never had his back. I don't know who back Trump has, and I say that to say because anytime you see his back against the wall, somebody gets thrown under the bus. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, Michael Cohen had to do what he had to do. Once he got caught, he had to do what he had to do. Otherwise, it would have been a lot worse for him. Um, and it's all interesting because it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the election, right? And
I mean,
you
Mr.
know,
Cohen was loyal, but then he started to turn, and even Trump was saying that. So I can't say he was loyal if the guy you work for, you turned on him, you got caught doing
but
illegal
he
things.
turned. I think what he's saying is that he turned because Trump didn't have his back. Like
Oh yeah, but I
yeah,
mean, go, go,
once he
go
recognized that
ahead.
Trump wasn't supporting him, he had to do what he had to do. You
Right,
know,
right.
and I
I mean,
Right,
agree.
and I think that's another part of the game too that we all need to look at. Is like, if you're gonna ask somebody to have unwavering loyalty, then that loyalty has a cost to it. You know what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
associated with it. And so if you
he
like,
said
oh
he's not
well,
loyal
I
to anyone.
paid you for doing it, and that's that. Yeah, that's cool, but now shit hit the fan again, and so now you got to go ahead and reach in that pocket again because now it's deeper circumstances, I believe.
Right. I agree with you, Stephen. He
I
said he's
agree with
not loyal
that,
to
Stephen.
anyone
He's
except
not
Donald
loyal to
Trump.
anyone except Donald Trump. But
I
I mean,
agree.
but Cohen had some of this coming on his own too. I mean, he was loyal. Then he felt this, that Trump didn't have his back, like you said. I agree, but
Hmm.
you know,
But what
it's
I was going to say about the election, right, is because Trump's base
uh
is so committed and loyal to him, but at the same time, not all Republicans are often mostly loyal to the Republican Party, not necessarily an individual. Although many are very, very loyal to him. Now that because they are also the party of law and order, they're not liberal. They're very strict. They strictly construe everything, right? That's the thing about being conservative. Well, not everything, but they could strictly construe a lot of things. Um, Now that their leader, and he is the leader of the Republican Party, like there's not
mhm.
really another way to slice that. Their leader has essentially been convicted of 34 felonies. Even if they're E-class felonies are very low level felonies. There's 34 of them. So even though they're low level felonies, he's still being convicted, right? And so, how do you reconcile voting for a convicted felon when
Mhm.
you won't even hire one?
Well, that's
You don't
funny
see him as one.
that
You
you
see
say
him
that.
as a individual who was, wrongly targeted by, like his
Right, but
always
then,
outliers,
but
right?
hold on though. Let's break that down a little bit, right? Because
Mhm.
let's take Ray Ray. Okay, our old buddy Ray Ray. Pookie, not so much. But Ray Ray, let's take Ray Ray. Ray Ray's trying to get a job. Ray Ray is a convicted felon. He's got one or two little, maybe it's drug possession, right? Maybe it's drug possession, something non-violent, right? Because Ray Ray was trying to feed his family. He got a couple baby mamas. He's trying to take care of his little ones, right? Ray Ray's
Mm-hmm.
trying to get a job. Ray Ray can't get a job because he is a convicted felon. He is trying to get a job working for a company that is owned by a Republican person who is not here for it at all. It's not with the reform, not with rehabilitation. Very, 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 attributed, very, very, um, focused on that scarlet letter that many convicted felons carry around, especially our black men, right? And Ray Ray is having a hard time getting a job. So now we are having an issue, right? So how do you overcome that? How do you like it's cool when he do it. It's a problem when they do it. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you have that, but then when it's done, when it comes to Donald Trump, it's all right. We know he didn't really mean no harm. It wasn't even like that. The system is rigged. It's all the things that people have been saying for hundreds of years. And now all of a sudden, oh no, let's pay attention to it because it's Donald Trump. But then when it comes to him, it's like all of these concessions are made. He's not even getting the same kind of treatment as everybody else. You know
That's
what I mean?
because he's able to, his sensing is in total lie, right?
God,
Like a few days before they're
that's
gonna
not gonna
nominate
make
him
it.
as, the Republican representative. Everything's falling into his favor. Like it's a double-edged sword. This conviction to me, going into the impacts on the voters, like because
Mhm,
one thing on the Democratic side, it could be utilized to galvanize their base potentially. Like, hey, we finally got him convicted. We got this. We're gonna
mhm,
get out and vote and party and dance for Biden and the Democratic Party. And also, it's already being used to galvanize the Republicans. They're already ready to go out and vote, ready to donate. Everybody's talking about how much money they want to donate and give, but they don't. People. they, it's funny. They want to give. How do I say? It's like the Great White Hope, and Donald
mhm,
Trump that hope, and Biden has been very lackluster to say the least, and disappointing. It's just too many clips of him just being disappointing, right? And a lot of people are unhappy with the state of the economy, state of immigration, state of many different things, healthcare, the student loans issue, all these issues, right?
mhm,
Black Americans not still getting what we want as Black Americans. So
mhm,
everybody, all kinds of groups are unhappy with the current administration as well. His approval rating is very low. Because I know they were all big on Trump stuff, but they're not really advertising Biden stuff. So I see the media bias, right? Like I mean, I'm not a fan of the Republican Party or that much of the Democratic Party right now either. But I could clearly see there's Democratic bias, which is really annoying. It's like just cover the stuff completely. So, it is what it is. But this impact is going to be very interesting on the voters because, you know, you pretty much if
Well, I
people
think it's
come out to vote, Biden got it. But if they stay home, the Republican got it because there's more red states than blue states, but blue states are more popular than the red states, right? So it's like it's going to come down to those independents and the middle voters. And what happened last time? It was tight until the midnight hour. Them old,
But
them
remember,
old, old
if
Democratic
Trump gets to
voters.
jail, if Trump gets sent to jail, he can't go. He can't go be president because you can't serve your sentence from a jail cell from the county jail or
Well,
Rikers Island or whatever.
Well, hold on,
so,
hold
so
on,
what's
whoa,
going
whoa,
to
whoa.
happen
Be
with
really
that
quick
is,
before we go into that. I just
um,
want to jump because y'all jumping off real quick. So I need to jump in here. One of the other things I think that you also got to look at too is the fact that some individuals are looking at even punishing like the judges and things of that nature, provided that if they look to try to bring about jail time. I think we've seen that by some legislators who have made statements in regards to
they don't have a choice
potentially the
now.
sentencing of this case.
They have to go for jail time because what's the point of giving him a fine? Because technically, based off of New York laws or the traditional how people handle it, it's like you can do short jail time or like fines. So they have to give him something, and they probably have to go beyond what's like the norm, you know. I mean, because it's
They
high
could give him.
profile.
They also could give
You
him
got
probation. They also could
right,
give him
right.
probation.
That's what I'm saying. They can give him a pat on the wrist, a fine, probation, maybe 30 days in jail, something similar like that. Like I don't know
Yeah,
exactly the statute
I
and
know
laws on
what
it,
you're
but
talking. I mean, a lot of people don't think he's gonna get jail. I don't know. I've
they
I'm
have to. They have
I'm a
to.
criminal defense attorney, so there have been plenty of times where I didn't think at all that a person was gonna get jail, and lo and behold, off they went. You
But this
see what
is
I'm
like a
saying?
political thing. They politically need to give him jail. Legally, that's a different
Well,
story. But politically,
well, no,
like,
legally they're well within their ability to do so because he has been
right.
convicted. Politically,
They
what does
really
that
need
look
to.
like?
They really
Right.
need to
So
advocate for the longest sentence possible.
right. He may, I don't know if they'll do all that, but
They need to because
the other thing is something that you mentioned earlier, Malik, is the fact that he does have three other pending cases. And so that right there also is very problematic. And the reason why I say he can't serve from jail is because you guys have to remember his cases are state cases. I think he got one federal case. The other ones are state cases. And so the federal government does not have the jurisdiction to pardon him. Let's just be clear. So a lot of times when people are like, oh yeah, they can just pardon himself. Nope, not for a state case. The only person that can pardon him is the governor.
no, if
And
he
so,
becomes president, it's over. He's not going to jail.
but that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know
No, it
because
is.
if he gets convicted in Georgia, let's say he gets convicted in Georgia, he has more of a likelihood of not going to jail because the governor of Georgia is Kemp and they are buddies. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he
So,
got his
but
buddies in the Supreme Court. He's not going to jail if
yeah,
he
but
gets
Kemp has also been very quiet about the whole Donald Trump thing because I think he's trying to just wait to see what happens, or he's trying to stay as far away from it as possible for self-preservation, right?
the Georgia
But
situation already got postponed. So,
I'm sorry, what did you say?
like the Georgia, it was a little update about that. Like that's not going to be resolved until after the election.
That's very possible, and a lot of that has to do with the whole fact that they're trying to get Fannie Willis off the case, right? But he
Right.
also has the other cases, and so if he's convicted, New York is July 11th. That is well before election time, and he can go ahead. He can go ahead and file an appeal, but appeals take time.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it will.
they take time, and plus you're talking about a big state like New York with all those people living there, you know what I mean? It's going to be a lot. And so even if they try to put a rush on it and all that other kind of stuff, it's going to be tight. And the reason why I say he can't serve, there's no law that says that he cannot serve as a convicted felon, right? But I
Yeah,
don't think
he can
he
serve.
will have the adequate resources sitting at Rikers Island serving a jail
He's
sentence.
not going to be in Rikers Island.
As the president of the United States. So
They're
you
not
know
going
what
to
I'm
do
saying?
it to him.
Yeah,
If he wins,
if he gets thrown in the clinker, I don't see it happening.
if
You
he
know what I mean?
loses, he's fair game. He's to the wolves, but if
Yeah, if
he
he
wins,
gets probation or a fine, then it's
watch out,
possible
New
to
York.
see.
All those people who convicted him, dirt's gonna come up, bad things are gonna happen to you. That's how it's gonna
No,
go.
they'll put him in protective custody, but either way, or even
No, I'm
send him.
just saying, like their political career is gonna be messed up. That's what I'm saying. Not like any bad.
But he
Their
don't
political
care.
career, he's gonna do anything to tank that. So
Wait,
yeah,
his other case is
Yeah,
in
no.
Florida, right? It's Florida, DC, and Georgia, right?
is there
You
something in
said
North
Georgia.
Carolina too? I know Georgia, New York, they already had their thing. I'm gonna say North Carolina. I don't know why that's coming like that.
Nah, I think it's DC and Florida. I'll
Uh,
look it up.
yeah, it's probably Florida, Georgia, and probably DC area.
Yeah. But either way, more will be revealed. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm not going to look it up. I said I was. I'm not going to. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and transition into our conclusion. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So just keep an eye out. Even if you're not really into the news like that, it's nothing to go ahead and click the Google joint and then see little news articles just so you know what's going on. We really should make sure
Hmm.
we're staying on top of what goes on in the world because even if you're not interested in it, it does have the ability to impact you. And you want to make sure you know what's going on and the things that impact you.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
so as
so
far as the state ones, I believe there's Georgia, and then there was New York, and then the federal cases
Oh, DC,
is
Florida,
in
and Georgia.
Florida.
Oh,
Mhm.
Florida has a federal case because
yeah,
it's like he had
Steven heard
improper
it.
documents. That was
And
in the Florida case. Pardon me.
Mhm.
Give
yeah,
one
thanks,
get to it
Yeah,
on
man.
that one in a second.
it's
Yeah,
a
that was a
recent.
classified documents case where he
Yeah,
had
it's
the
a- yeah. When you had he still had the presidential documents in his home, and then you have
mhm.
the DC case, which is another one like that, and then you have the Georgia RICO case, where him and Young Thug is charged with the same thing, but just different versions of the same thing. So,
Yeah, and then DC was like a federal, excuse me, election interference case as well. So
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so, with that, we're gonna go ahead and transition into our book of the month. So shout out to all the black men out here. It is Black Men Health Awareness Month. Amongst Black Music Month and some other things, but that is why I chose the book for this month. This month's book is called Self Care for Black Men: 100 Ways to Heal and Liberate. And that
mm,
book is by Jarrell Caraballo. He's a therapist, and his name is actually spelled JOR-EL. Carabello, Carabello. So y'all make sure y'all go ahead and snatch that book up, help yourselves out, find a way to keep yourselves
What's the name of the
thinking.
book, Sam?
It is called 100 Ways. I'm sorry, it's called Self Care for Black Men: 100 Ways to Heal and Liberate. So y'all make sure y'all go ahead and check that book out. Also, too, the Black Business of the Month is called A Cold Wall. It is
mm.
a streetcar brand of clothing founded to bring attention to racial disparities. They have some pretty hip clothes, so y'all might want to check them out. The website is a-cold-wall.com. So that's a dash cold cold dash wall, like the wall in your house, WAL.com. So make sure you check them out, and then I'm gonna let E wrap us up with that motivational minute.
Absolutely. And so this is from another um endangered figure right now in this in these current political times. And I'm gonna read the words real quick. So Brother Trump, while he's going through what he's going through. Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together. Better now than never, business before pleasure. P. Diddy and the family, who you know do it better. Yeah, right. No matter what, we're airtight. And when you hear something, make sure you hear it right. Don't make a out of yourself by assuming my music keeps you moving. What are you proving? You know that I'm 2 levels above you, baby. Hug me, baby. I'ma make you love me, baby.
Shout out to the
And
notorious B.I.G. for writing those lyrics.
Yeah.
you
Shout out
feel
to
me?
Shout out to Christopher
And
Wallace.
Jada, I know he was definitely
right.
big on that too, writing for Puff. You know, shout out to Kiss because he do get down with that as well. So again, I just feel like this is just one of those like warrior cries that you feel like people sing out when you feel like times are down and out. Um, don't necessarily know why I put it with these two individuals, but it's just something that just made me always remember that one. So yeah, that's the motivational money. So as you in your life may be going through some trials and tribulations, remember those words.
So we
Yeah,
want to thank
the
you. Go
beautiful
ahead.
words. Thanks, E.
We want to go ahead and thank y'all for tapping in with us. We appreciate your contribution, and your comments and your attention. So make sure you tap in with us every Wednesday around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. I'm also over here on the Tagged app. But you know what you can do for the pre-show, 7:30 on Instagram Live. You can make sure you tap in with us as well. Um, Yeah, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, all that good stuff. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Samantha Renee 77 underscore ESQ or Samantha ESQ underscore counterpoise. Fellas, you want to go ahead and drop them socials?
Yeah, you guys can catch me at that guy 2104 or CP underscore EV on Instagram.
Yeah, you guys can catch me at Malik M. Foster on all social media. And you can catch me at Malik underscore counterpoise on my counterpoise account.
Here you
So
go. One last thing. If y'all have any topics that you would like to hear us talk about, make sure you just tap in with us. Let us know. We're more than happy to talk about it. Also, too, if you want to be on the show, make sure you let us know. We like to have company. So just let us know. Otherwise, y'all have a great rest of your week. And we will see y'all next week. Please be good to one another and be safe out there.
yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Peace out. Y'all be blessed.
All right.
Damn,
Appreciate y'all
Sam
that.
must have dropped this bad boy.
Yeah,
It still
shoot.
say it's streaming. What's going on?
Nah, we're
Why
not.
still say we live? Mine say live and recording. You don't see
Shoot.
it say in stream at the bottom?
I ended. I don't know why it's still there.
Right, and they did do the like outro. I'm about to look to see if we live on YouTube.